The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
What is currently a major focus for you?
Well, the repatriation and sacred sites issues, so returning cultural items and ancestors back to their affiliated tribes.
And is there a lot of that out there?
Like I said, there's that law, the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, that requires any institution that received federal funding or federal agencies to work towards repatriation of items that they've received over time back to their tribes. But there are also tons of ancestors and items in international museums. So we're working on developing strategies to go after those, because a lot of those countries, there has been kind of a rethinking about the purpose of museums and public education regarding indigenous peoples, and how do we decolonize these institutions. And so we're trying to work, and some countries are easier than others, because if you have sacred religious items from American indigenous societies in some museums across the waters, their country considers it their cultural property. So you need an act of their country's government in order to deaccession those items and return them home. So there are some countries that are much more difficult to work with than others, but we're in the process of developing strategy to help with international repatriation. We're also trying to watch private collectors and educate people about the importance of returning cultural patrimony and other sacred items that they've received over time. Whether or not there's a legal obligation to do, there's definitely an ethical and moral obligation to return these items so that cultures can be revitalized and that those items can be put back to use. So that's one area. We have a repatriation conference every year that we work together with tribes and institutions and foreign governments to work on these issues. Sacred sites. I just was before the Indigenous Peoples Subcommittee in the House a few weeks ago talking about what's going on at the border, and the Tohono O'odham chairman was there as well to talk about those issues. And as he spoke, he was telling the Congress representatives that he just found out that they were blowing up another section. So it's and that is happening because there was a law in 2005 that allowed Department of Homeland Security to waive all these environmental laws, and if there was an emergency, to do so. And so the administration is saying that the border wall is an emergency that allows them to waive all these environmental laws. And so it's not just about protecting sacred sites, but all the other environmental concerns, all the animal migrations, birds, plants, and water quality that are being affected by this border wall, because people strongly think we need a 30-foot, tall border. So we're working. We continue to work to protect sacred sites. So
along the border, where they're doing this and putting in the wall, many of these areas have been designated as sacred sites. And so is that what you're saying?
Yeah, our known sacred sites.
And there's artifacts there and all sorts of different things that could be destroyed by the construction of this?
They blew up an area and found human remains.
Oh, Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, do they stop when they do that?
They repatriated those bones and they kept going. Yeah, so this is how – that's it. Wow. That's it. They're just moving forward.
They don't identify the bones and then look for the rest of the culture that might have existed there.
No, they're moving forward. And you know what they're saying. And so and the rhetoric around this is so detrimental, because during that hearing, it was clearly about how do we protect sacred sites and how do we make sure that tribal consultation and other options can be presented so that that environment and other areas are protected. And the Republican congressman that was there, who was really quite seems like not a nice guy, basically said there is more damage caused by migrant traffic, trash, and defecating than there is by blowing up the ground. And so that is the Department of the Interior, Homeland Security, and Republicans in Congress are saying about that border wall.
Just stop and think about how that's unchallenged.
Yeah.
How ridiculous a thing that is to say. You could pick up trash. You could pick up shit. You can't pick up once you blow up sacred sites and bones.
It's forever, and it's irreplaceable. These are irreplaceable resources.
But the fact that nobody challenged him on that, like that's such a ridiculous thing to say.
We challenged them. And Deb Haaland, who is a Native American congresswoman, definitely challenged him about that. But it's – I think the law is on their side.
Is it safe to say that there's many areas that you're talking about along the border that are probably undiscovered because you're dealing with things that are potentially thousands of years old?
So remember, undiscovered has different meanings. So tribes may have understandings about certain areas that other people do not, that they try to protect. And so that's why consultation is so important and working with tribes so you can understand what's going on the ground. But usually they do some kind of minor investigation, and supposedly that was done, that is being done, but nothing's being done to protect it. So it's known, but...
So even if they consult with the tribes and the tribes say, this area is essentially a burial ground from 1,000 years ago and our ancestors used this, they're like, oh, that's a cool story. We're going to put a wall here.
Yep. Yeah, but that happens. That's not just happening at the border. That's happening all over the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's nothing new. What's new here is that all of those environmental laws and those opportunities for public comment, so it's not just tribal consultation, but even public comment, have been completely waived.
Those stories always weird me out when someone's building an apartment building and they stop construction because they found some sort of a burial site underneath it, and you're like, what?
Right.
Like, how many of those are out there? I mean, how many areas where people are digging into the ground, they are going to find some incredible archaeological discovery, and it's getting, smashed by a bulldozer.
Yeah, it happens all the time. And so a lot of the context for what was happening here before Europeans came is gone.
Yes.
Because we've just destroyed all the evidence of it. That's why often the way archaeological investigations have moved forward is they look at discrete sites without connecting the dots in a more holistic way about what's happened in a certain area. So most of our archaeological context and all that evidence is gone, and it continues to be eluded by amateur archaeologists. And of course, I've worked on many different developments across the country where the bulldozers come. Oh, they see there's human remains there, and they just dump it into the fill.
Really?
Yeah, because
it's
they don't want to
inconvenient
stop.
to report.
Yeah, it costs money to stop.
It costs a shitload of money.
Yeah.
Right.